Dwayne! It's lunchtime! Are you ready for Thunderbird?
Yahoo!
Welcome to Beat the Beast, where news races the beast. Each and every week, we take a look at the latest news and trending social media topics and give our opinions of them, all before the beast hits the final brake run. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special topic for you this evening. Yes, this is the Thunderbird edition of Beat the Beast, where all four topics will be discussing the newest and greatest wing rider, maybe, down at Holiday World, Thunderbird. Now, Dwayne, you had the opportunity to go out and experience Thunderbird this past week and experience Holiday World for the very first time. So we're going to talk to you mainly today about your experiences at this great media day. So let's start with that as our first topic tonight, where we're going to look at the day itself. So, as always, let's put that timer on the clock so that we can race the beast. And there you go. So, Dwayne, tell us a little bit about your day at Thunderbird Media Day.
Well, Andy, it was a magnificent and excellent day. First off, what a beautiful sun-filled day in Santa Claus, Indiana. And I tell you what, freezing cold. Just like when we were at Banshee last year at Kings Island, it was 35 degrees when I arrived in Santa Claus. Really wishing I had one of those beautiful COASTER-net hoodies that we have, or jackets that I don't have yet. But anyway, I did have a jacket with me. We were able to get into the media day. They had it very organized. That's one thing I'm going to talk about later is the organization of this event. It was outstanding. But the long trek, what people don't understand about this, if you don't know or haven't been to Holiday World, this is all the way in the back right side of the park, and it is a trek downhill and then uphill. And you wouldn't think so in the middle of Indiana that you'd have to worry about that, but even though we're in the middle of a cornfield, you really have to get back there. But once we got back there, they did the opening ceremony, and then they did the first launch of the Give Kids the World auction winners. And they counted that down. We all got to be a part of that. And then they opened up the ride. And we got to ride as much as we wanted. Unlike many media days, this one was a little bit special. They had it open at 6:30, and we got to ride clear till noon as many times as we wanted to ride. There were only a few hundred people there, maybe 200-300 people in total, and a lot of the media left after the morning rides. And so really you could ride as much as you wanted. We were able to ride in every seat pretty much and get plenty of footage. And so it was an excellent day for us at COASTER-net to get and to be involved in this media day. We were fed breakfast. We were also fed lunch. I'll get into that in just a couple minutes as well. But it was just an overall excellent day. We got to the behind-the-scenes tour and a behind-the-scenes look. We got to go all the way out to the end of voyage and take a look at the trains barreling through some of the turnaround parts. I got to see behind-the-scenes vantage point of Thunderbird that a lot of people, normal guests, general public guests, aren't going to get to see throughout the year. And so we got some footage of that as well. And then they even fed us dinner. Like I said, this actually lasted all the way till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. I actually left around 5:30, which was Central Time, which is 6:30 my time. And so I was dead tired. I had ridden it plenty. I quit counting, but I wanted to get a feel of what it was like to ride it in every seat, because the ride, as we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes, is different from different spots on the coaster, as many wing coasters are, and so we'll talk about that. In regards to lunch and breakfast was absolutely magnificent. They had it set up for us when we got there. Hot chocolate, coffee, orange juice. Of course, they had the always popular free soda and all the free drinks that you wanted throughout the day, just like a normal day at Holiday World. You also were able to indulge on these unbelievable cinnamon rolls. I mean, I like Cinnabon, but these were made in-house, and with the cream cheese icing, I did have to sample one even though I'm on a diet, and they were unbelievable. There were even people going up asking them where they got these from, and they were actually being made at the Plymouth Rock Cafe. They also had fresh, homemade biscuit sandwiches and breakfast sandwiches, like you buy, you get at McDonald's or whatever, but they were freshly made. They were really good as well. I didn't try one, but I could smell them. They smelled good, so I'm sure they were good. Lunch was very excellent as well. We got to eat in the Plymouth Rock Cafe. We got to have barbecue pulled pork. We had mac and cheese. We had even pecan cobbler. I'm not a big pecan fan, like we know from the last episode. But I did try it just to be, like I said, I would try everything. And also we got to sample the Thunderbird ice cream. And I will say that it is a delicate or a delectable, there we go, we get the right word out there, type of ice cream. I wasn't really satisfied with the spicy almonds or pecans, and they were spicy. And I've run out of time. But like I said, I need more than 4 minutes to talk about this day because it was a 7-hour day after all.
Well, for sure. Well, you remember what happened on the Fury show. We got bested by the Beast more than a few times on that show, and I'm pretty sure that the same's going to happen tonight. But moving on from the Media Day, sounds like it was a great event, as always, at Holiday World. Super nice people there. I know you, maybe as a little interlude here, you talked about how great the people were to you at the event and how nice and friendly and hospitable they were throughout the entire day as well. But I think it's time for us to move on to our next topic, which is the ride itself, this much anticipated ride, Thunderbird. We waited 66 days at sea in order to get the announcement and then had to wait months and months more to actually get on this ride. So Dwayne, let's start that clock. And why don't you tell us a little bit about Thunderbird?
Bring up Gatekeeper for just a second, another wing coaster in the same category. I could talk about how that was hyped up, and then I was kind of not disappointed, but it was just kind of for me. Not this one. Thunderbird is by far my favorite wing coaster that I've ridden. Because of the smoothness of the ride, and that's where I want to start. From the launch to the final zero G roll into the final brake run, the coaster doesn't lose speed. And plus, it is the smoothest ride. It is something that you can re-ride over and over and over again. And that is not just me saying that. If you get a chance to go do it, trust me, you could sit on there and marathon it. And we did. We would come back, and there were times there was nobody in the front row. We would just stay in there and ride it and ride it and ride it and ride it. And I never got once beat up, got sick. Any of the stuff that you normally may get on certain coasters, even a Gatekeeper, which I couldn't ride more than 3 or 4 times in a row maybe, this one I could just ride 50 or 60 times and never get tired of it. The launch is outstanding. You're in this beautiful station. The station is magnificent. It's kind of barn-like. You go upstairs, and you got the flashing lights and the sound effects, and they yell out lunchtime, and then you kind of creep out onto the launch pad, and all of a sudden the fog kind of creeps around you, and it spews out in front of you, and all of a sudden you just launch. There's no countdown. You don't know when it's coming, but it's not one of those jarring launches like Top Thrill Dragster. It is a smooth launch, and it really does pack some punch. It takes you right in to that first element, so one of my favorite elements, all right, which is the what do you call it, the dive loop, the inverted dive loop there, and right into a huge vertical loop. And the vertical loop is actually really good as well. Usually you feel very, very pressured when you go into those. And this one, not at all. Flying through the woods is by far one of the best parts. You don't even realize you're in a theme park because you don't see anything except for foliage around you and a bunch of trees. The ride is short, only lasts about 50-some seconds. You do get to go into the ride interactive building where you look like you're going to get your head chopped off by the building. It looks like you're crashing through it. It is a beautiful wood building. They've got some hands up there, like people have lost their hands or put the hands going through there. I'm sure you've seen pictures of that. It is a neat effect. But in regards to the ride and where you want to sit, I tried all places. I tried middle, I tried front, I tried back, I tried both outside, inside seats. I sat in every single seat. There are 20 seats on the ride. and I was able to ride in every single one of them. And so I've got a vantage point from all of them. My favorite is the front right. Most people were going for the left side. The biggest lines of the day and throughout the first weekend, everyone is going for the left side. Again, you get better effects of the head chopper effect with that, but I like the feeling of being on this end when it's going down, just like Gatekeeper, for example. So I really like being in the front right. And really, Andy, there's not a bad seat on that entire coaster. You can ride it anywhere, and it is great. There are big boy seats in rows 2 and 3, not just 3, rows 2 and 3, and it does give you some extra length. I was fine in this ride. No matter where I sat, there was length for me everywhere. And so it's a very comfortable ride. And one of your favorite things, Andy, the vests don't lock. I know that you mentioned that when we were talking about it. And so just like Gatekeeper, we had that problem before. These don't lock, and it is a very comfortable ride. And a lot of people, I've seen mixed reviews. Some people say this wasn't the ride that they were expecting, but it's exactly what I was expecting. It's exactly what Holiday World needs, and I think it's really, really going to put them on the map, because now they're not just known as a wooden coaster and water coaster park. They're just an excellent park, and that is perfect timing.
Perfect timing on that one. Sounds like an awesome ride. I haven't gotten to go on it yet, but me and Danny, we're going out for Hollywood Nights this year, so we're going to have a blast out there. Hopefully we got some stuff in the works. But yeah, so our first trip, our first rides are going to be at Hollywood Nights, which I can only imagine at night, like you were saying, should be even more amazing.
Yes, I didn't get a chance to do that, but man, I can imagine with the fog and the lights. And I'm sure that the coaster has some lights on it as well. That's going to be beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
So our next topic today is you also had the exclusive ability by going to this meet today to get a backstage tour of Thunderbird. So once again, if we could start the clock to race the beast. And there you have it. If you could tell us a little bit about the backstage tour and kind of the stuff that you heard as throughout the day.
What a great time it was to go backstage or behind the scenes here and get a look at a lot of people. The general public don't get the chance to see of certain rides, whether it be Voyage, which is one part of this as well. But they actually had to change it up on us a little bit. They wanted to do the Raven and Legend stuff, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit first. So we had to wait till about 3:00 to go on this tour, but they continued to run the trains. So we were able to get footage in places that normally you wouldn't be able to get footage of. And so we were able to see the entire coaster from beginning to end with some great shots. One of the vice presidents, Chris, was there to kind of give us the tour, and he was talking about some things that the park were doing while we were on the tour, and maybe some of the stuff they did with Voyage. And so he talked about that it was a very epic thing for them to build this coaster, and the time that it took to go up, it was very, very quick. They didn't expect it that. They didn't have any problems whatsoever. The one thing that they are having to deal with, though, is the power consumption that this coaster is using. They have 4 semi-truck generators that are giving temporary power to this ride because it does consume so much power. The flywheel has to have so much pressure to be able to launch this coaster every single time. And so they said that's a temporary thing, but man, is it loud. You could hear those generators for, forever away. We were all the way over to Raven and Legend. You could still hear them. So it was very, very difficult. The thunderstorm sound effects of the ride does masks that a little bit when it gets launched, but when it's downtime, you can really hear those generators buzzing. So that was only the one negative that I had of the situation, but again, you can't do anything about that. But in regards to what we did on the backstage tour, he was talking to us about certain things about the Voyage, the fact that a couple of years ago they had to raise parts of it up. It was fouling. It had potholes, as we say in this industry. And they got rid of the potholes. They showed us, where they had done some retracking and some reboarding. I think the ride was made in 2006. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's when the Voyage was built. And so it's wearing very well, but again, it's a forceful coaster. We'll talk about that in the next segment. But we also got to kind of go all the way down the hill, if you wanted to where the turnaround is for Voyage and get some shots of that. But one of the most fascinating things was, as I was watching this, was some of the things that they were talking about that they've been doing, that there's a plan out there to continue to bring more things in, and they're working with certain companies. They wouldn't say who, of course, but they were kind of hinting at certain things. And one of the big things was someone asked the question of, what are you doing about the PTC trains? Or not the PTC trains, but
the Timberliners.
Yeah, the Timberliners. Yeah, and somebody asked about what they were doing with the Timberliners, and they said, well, they're just sitting in storage and they're not going to be used for anything. We're actually trying to sell them and no one wants them. And so, they had that plan to use the Timberliners for a long time and it just never seemed to fit in. And so they're still on site. They're still in storage. They were talking about that and they can't find anybody to purchase them. They're talking about that. They're talking about maybe expanding the water park in the near future again, as well, as they know that that's a big part of their, deal. But I tell you what, Andy, there is so much room, and I don't know if they own it all, but there's so much room to the east side of Thunderbird. There is so much property, and I don't know if the Cooks own it or what if the deal there, but there is plenty of room to continue to build onto this park. And I have a feeling over the next 10 years, this park's going to grow into something that everyone's going to know about, that everyone's going to want to get to, even though it's in the middle of Indiana in a cornfield. And trust me, I drove it. I didn't realize that it was literally – and it's not hard to get to. You can literally drive on I-64 from where I'm at. You can get there. It's very quick. I was very surprised. I thought it was literally out in the middle of nowhere. But once you get on 6 miles, you literally know you're in the middle of nowhere. I'm out of time. The Beast beat me. And it was an excellent experience. Getting to go behind the scenes of any coaster at all. We've done it with the Beast. And now we've done it with this one. It's an excellent thing. It's just not something you get to see every day in our industry.
Yeah, for sure. It's really cool. And, I got that experience at Winter Chill Out a few times, getting a different look, especially in the maintenance area, seeing how these things work. And it's always a fascinating time to see those. We have a few videos up on our YouTube channel right now of those things. And, it's a great time. It's just pretty cool. If you really love the industry, it's something that you should really try to do at least a few times, is get a backstage tour of some of these rides. So moving on to our last topic, which I don't know, might be one of my more interesting topics because, I know that it was your first trip to Holiday World. So I'm really curious to see where you place these other rides on your ranking list. Things like the Voyage, the Legend, the Raven. These are 3 of my top wooden coasters. I love all 3 of them. But I'm very curious to see how you rank them, and you got the chance to ride them. So let's start that clock for the final time this evening. And why don't you give us your opinion on those rides?
Well, one of the greatest things about the day was when I realized that I was able to go down for media day, and then the itinerary came out, and it said that there was going to be given time to ride Voyage as much as you wanted. And I've heard nothing but good things about this being a world-class coaster. It's been one of the top-rated wooden coasters in the world for years running since it was built. And then to realize that when we got there, it was going to be open for the entire time, that you could ride it as much as you wanted. And then they were also going to allow us to ride Raven and Legend. I'm like, yes, I'm going to be able to get some more credits just by going to this media day. So that worked out perfectly for me. 5.5-hour trip to do all that, that's easily done. And so I rode Thunderbird a few times, and then eventually went down to Voyage because no one was on it. I could see it was running, and there was only a few people on it. So I wanted to try it in the front. I also wanted to try it in the back, and I rode it first in the back. And I tell you what, I have never seen a coaster that makes you on the edge from the time you go off the first hill to the end. I mean, you are never stopping. It's right, it's left, it's airtime. The G-forces are amazing on this ride. And yes, I have a big place in my heart for the Beast, and I know you don't like it. And I will tell you that I think the Voyage is better than the Beast in regards to listen. In regards of the elements that it has, the airtime. I think that now I was beat up more on the Voyage because of those elements more than I am on the Beast, because the Beast, it's more rickety, but you also have the straight stretches and the more speed. So, and I know you just fall asleep on the lift hill, but it's more like this coaster is amazing to me in what it can do, because when you look at it from the off-ride vantage point, it doesn't look like it's going very fast, but you look like you're about out of hell on that thing. I mean, it's like you never stop. I mean, and I couldn't believe how long it was. You think it's going to end, and it doesn't. You get to the mid-course brake run, you get ready to go down into that tunnel, and then all of a sudden it starts again, and you're just going left and right and back and forth. I'm like, my goodness, is this thing ever going to end? And I couldn't wait to get back because I wanted to ride it in the front as well. I like it better in the back than I do the front, to be honest with you. But yeah, it is when they talk about a world-class wooden coaster, this one's it. There's no other explanation. This is definitely by far the most fun that I've had on a roller coaster, wooden-wise, in a very long time. So it makes the Beast. It would knock Beast down to number 2 for me in wooden coasters. You know, I don't rank coasters, although I am going to do that this year. I promised that I would do that, so I'm going to rank both sides of my coasters this year. So right now, that is definitely number 1. I haven't got a chance to ride El Toro or Outlaw Run or Goliath or anything like that. Hopefully, I'll get to do that this summer.
Oh, maybe.
At least a couple of them anyway, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, in regards to the Raven and the Legends, the Raven to me, after riding the Voyage, was
Yeah.
I liked it. It's below Beast. It's way above a lot of other wooden coasters I've ridden, but I wouldn't put it up there in like a top 5. The Legend to me was more fun. It was shorter, but I like that short banging around better. I think the Raven was just a little too much for me. The Raven's the one that goes out onto the water, correct?
Yes.
Or is that the Legend? Yes.
Yeah.
And so I did like that effect. But other than that, I did like the bell toll of the Raven as well. Or the Legend, sorry, not the Raven. I got confused. But
the Legend, the Helix.
I do like
the Helix, where it just doesn't stop. Oh my God, the
and
Helix.
It feels like you're going to be thrown off the thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I rode it with the guy who rode Thunderbird with me on one of the reverse POVs, and I about crushed him, I think, because I was on the wrong side. Luckily, they have the things in the middle that don't allow you to do that, because I was about ready to be thrown out. I was sitting on the right side.
Yeah.
So,
oh my goodness.
But yeah, I couldn't believe it, Andy. What a great time it was just to ride all of those and get that experience, because I'd never seen it. I know you told me I never expected to be able to have the time that I had. I know I'm out of time, but I do want to say that you mentioned about the people. They are some of the most hospitable and friendly people of a theme park that I have ever had the chance to be around. I mean, from the time we got there, they were, how are you doing? How's your morning? What can we get you? Is there anything that you need? It was that way from the time we got there. I mean, you'd think by the time 5 o'clock rolled around, they'd be ready to go. We had the park vice presidents come out. We just got off the ride, and they came up to us and they said, hey, are you hungry? We just ordered a whole bunch of pizza, and it's down at the Plymouth Rock Cafe. You guys can have dinner. And so we went down there, and then they had all of this spread. It wasn't just that. They had chicken wraps. They had bacon and ranch wraps. They had mashed potatoes. And, I mean, you name it. They had that at lunch, at dinner, and it was just do what you wanted, have what you wanted. And there was no questions asked. It was very well done. I mean, everybody got their full need of rides, full need of food. Anytime that you wanted a good shot, and I can tell you there are a lot of really, really good places to get footage, pictures, and everything else of this ride because it's beautiful. And we were even lucky enough at one time to be able to get Thunderbird going out and Voyage going underneath. And so hopefully you'll be able to see that on one of our film footages here that we're going to be putting up. So. And before I send it back to you, be on the lookout. There will be plenty of stuff up on the Thunderbird, maybe a mini documentary, plus some ride footage, some POV footage and stuff. You've already saw my reverse POV. It's up on the COASTER-net TV as well. So we are really starting to get that footage rolling in. So continue to support us and always watch COASTER-net TV. Andy, back to you.
Holiday World is just one of those places that I completely loved when I went there. And I know Danny, who's our good friend, loves it as well, and we cannot wait to go to Hollywood Nights. We cannot wait to ride Thunderbird, and your experience is pretty much the experience that I think a lot of people have at Holiday World. It's the family atmosphere. It's like you're walking into a place and you're completely comfortable from the minute you walk in, from the minute you walk out. That you don't feel uncomfortable at any time. You don't feel like people are unwelcoming. Like I've been to a lot of parks where it's just like it's almost as if I'm inconveniencing them by being there that day. Holiday World is the exact opposite of that, and I think that's why even though it's in an area that doesn't have a lot of coaster people traffic. That's why people flock there. That's why there's a pilgrimage to go there. It's because of the people. It's because of the atmosphere. It's because of the environment. Those are the things that draw so many people there each and every year to Holiday World. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm really super excited that you had a great day. I knew that the minute you signed up for it that you were indeed going to have a great day. Also we didn't mention it, but there was an auction and a fundraiser. So we definitely donated to Give Kids the World. To try to, help our favorite charity as well. So that's a great cause as well, that Holiday World was able to raise, thousands of dollars for that charity as well, which is also another great thing. We kind of went over a lot here, but, we just like to rave about Holiday World. What can you do? As always, thank you for joining us here on Beat the Beast. I am, of course, Andy Robarczyk from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Dwayne Sponseller from Parkersburg, West Virginia. May the Q lines be ever in your favor.
And right on, Ride Warriors.